Hi guys, I'm Brad and welcome to the Great Hollywood Rewrite, where we take a look at some of cinema and TV's most troublesome titles and have a poke around under the hood. I'm joined today by John. Hi John.
Hey Brad.
This week our audience selected the film Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice from 2016, written by Chris Terrio and David Goyer and directed by Zach Snyder. But before we get stuck into man versus God versus monster versus a Mark Zuckerberg clone, if you haven't done so already, check out our website, thescriptdepartment.net, for all our latest projects, including script readings from our international network of screenwriters. Also, you can follow us on social media, hit the links in the description, and subscribe to our podcast. Just search for The Script Department wherever you get your podcasts for daily episodes. So, John, I know you're a DC fan. I know you're a big fan of Batman. I know you even pitched for Superman at one point, and this film's been deemed a slight letdown for various reasons, whether it's the scripts, the studio wranglings, the director. There are lots of theories on this. Some good parts, some bad parts. What do you make of this?
So you said I'm a DC fan. I'm really just a Batman fan, but I'm a super Batman fan. So I can tolerate the other satellite properties that invade Batman, or that Batman tends to invade every now and again in media and video games and so on. This was definitely something I was excited about, but I was excited really because it was new Batman. I've never been a Superman fan. I did pitch Superman once, but it was one of those kind of the story basically is I was at Warner Brothers and I had injured my leg, my ankle in New York, and I had just suffered through it all, but it was just getting worse and worse, and I really needed medical attention, but I just didn't have the money to afford a trip to hospital at that point. And I was in Warner Brothers, supposed to meet with an executive to pitch some stuff there. And then I met this other executive who had just come out of knee surgery. And so we were both kind of limping around the canteen, getting our breakfast. And his meeting never showed, my meeting never showed. And we just got chatting because of this mutual kind of need for help to get around the room. And he said, okay, well, why don't you come to my office? And then I pitched him a bunch of stuff. He wasn't interested. But then he did say what he really needs is pitches for Superman, because that's where Warner Brothers was going with all this. This was just after The Dark Knight. And so everybody just wanted the Christopher Nolan version of Superman. Christopher Nolan then came on as a producer of Batman. But I think that was kind of where they were at the time, was that this was the Chris Nolan vision for Superman. But they were just taking pitches, whatever they could get really on it. And I pitched what I thought was a really cool idea, which was that Superman had to do away with Clark Kent. It was Superman versus Clark Kent rather than the traditional kind of Superman approach. My whole thing with Superman was that I really don't like Superman. I think he's so overpowered as a character that's very, very hard to get behind him or anything. I know some people are just really obsessive Superman fans, and more power to you, but for me it's always been this thing where it's hard for me to care about any of your struggles because you can do anything. You're a hero because you save everybody, but it's so easy for you to save everybody. You would be an asshole if you didn't save them, and whereas, someone like Batman literally has to make up excuses to get out of, some party or whatever, because he's seen the bat signal and he's got to go home and put on the bat suit and he's got to go out and he's going to have to break a few ribs in order to save the day. The thing I liked about Batman vs Superman right at the very beginning was that he wasn't able to save everybody, with the wake of the destruction at the end of Man of Steel. And my whole thing with Superman my pitch for it was that he is exiled as Clark Kent because of their fear of him, because he's not able to hide who he is. And it's this thing where he can live a normal life, or he can be Superman, but he can't be both. and it's got to be like one of them has to go by the end of this story. And that was the challenge. And if he's Superman, he can't be with Lois Lane. And if he's Clark, he can't rush off and save the day at a moment's notice, because he's the most recognizable human being on the planet. Again, I hated this idea. He wears glasses, but he works at the one building where they would be actively looking for, one building outside of the CIA where they would be actively looking for this guy. It was just, it was ridiculous. It'd be like, I don't know, Richard Nixon putting on a fake goatee or something and hiding in plain sight at the Washington Post. It was just this thing where I could never get behind it. And I just thought, if you're making a movie now and you want to do the Chris Nolan approach, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Because the Chris Nolan answer to this is, you're either one or the other. Even in the Chris Nolan movies, it was ridiculous that that Bruce Wayne got away with hiding his identity for so long. And I always assumed that the road would be that somebody would just out Bruce Wayne as Batman, because that's what happens. And I love that Marvel went down that road with a lot of their characters, where it's just, we know who they are. There's no hiding behind it anymore. And exploring
Iron Man.
And Spider-Man as well. Then later on, Protege having a very similar kind of out.
So John, I like that one of the reasons that you like Batman more than Superman is the convenience of their craft. So it's like, Superman just has to fly off, but Batman, he's got to put the cape on and the cowl. He's got to find the keys to the Batmobile. He's got to let Alfred know he's going to be back late.
What I love about it is he has to pick his battles. He can't leave, even though we always see him leave when the bat signal goes off. Yeah. He's not actually able to go. Like, that bat signal can't just be perpetually on and him out and about. He has to actually pick his battles. Superman doesn't have to pick his battles. He can do all of them. There's a burning building in, Hong Kong, let's say, and there's a wildfire in Australia, and there's a person threatening to jump out of a building in Manhattan. I can go to all of those places and be back before Lois even realizes I've gone to the bathroom. That is the truth, and so that's not an exaggeration of his abilities in the movies. And so for me, I was like, you got to take away some. Anyway, so
it's interesting. They do sort of visit the disparity of powers in this film. That's interesting.
I pitched it. They were engaged at the time, and I thought, oh, maybe this will go somewhere. And of course, then I realized I've just pitched them the most off-brand Superman movie ever. They're not going for this at all. So I didn't get it in the end. But then I was glad they did the whole thing with the S. It's not an S. It's a symbol it's like a family crest. I wasn't sure. I didn't know. I don't know anything about Superman canon really, so I wasn't sure if that was actually built into it. But it felt like they were trying to take steps to better explain away some of the weird things about Superman in that movie. Anyway, by the time Batman vs Superman came out, I was completely uninterested in Superman, though I like Henry Cavill as an actor. I think he did a great job with that character nevertheless. But I was all in it for Batman. That was it. I like the Batman stuff, but hate the third act. And it is so clearly we need to do everything Marvel did in phase one and rush it in this, like, in half this movie. And it doesn't help that this film came off the back of Civil War, because Civil War, I think, came out earlier that year, because that is a superior film in every way. I think
it's one of the best in the Marvel franchise, and it was one of the first ones where it was like, oh my God, there's a lot of people in this film, and it worked because most of them had a film or two or three, and then the ones who hadn't had films slated to come out, and it was like, okay, this is a big deal. Whereas this one, it was less so.
The pacing of that story felt more appropriate for establishing characters or taking characters in new directions. This didn't feel appropriate in that way. It felt very rushed, very contrived, very studio rewrite-esque in terms of the way things are shoehorned in, so that we can then get more movies out of it. And this should have been the Ali Frazier kind of thing, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was, this should have been the Ali Frazier movie event. It wasn't. It was a great marketing campaign for Turkish Airlines, I believe.
Yeah.
That was about it. I think that's about as much as we got in terms of the epicness of it. Anyway.
Yeah, I think it was an interesting concept to try. I mean, I'd seen it. I think it was first uh like in like listed as in development in like 2001 or something.
Hmm.
And then it was in there's an Easter egg to it in I Am Legend. So
Oh,
where
okay.
Will Smith's
Yeah.
wandering around Times Square. It's Batman versus Superman, but it's just the bat over the S
Yeah.
on a movie photo, and it's like, oh, that would be an interesting film. And then they did go for it. I mean, it was an ambitious thing to do, but like you say, I'll go over the talking points in a moment, but the DCEU setup is one of them. And it almost felt like parts of this film were product placement, and the products they were placing were the other films. You know what I mean? It's like, plonk that one on there. Okay, they know what Aquaman looks like. Plonk that on there. There's the Flash. And yeah, it was a little bit. I mean, it was ambitious, but it felt slightly rushed because they did it in 2 films instead of 5 or 6. So that was where sort of I think the wheels could have done with a little bit more greasing to get this thing sort of to land this enormous set piece that is Batman versus Superman.
This enormous Turkish airline flight, that literally had all the Anyway.
So there's 4 or 5 plot points. First one is the rivalry feels a little bit off. So the lead into the feud feels quite convoluted and almost unnecessary. And the Luther's string pulling didn't feel totally convincing. What we needed was to get these guys to fight was like a Kaiser Soze level deception, but we ended up with a lot of unexplained sort of character beats, like how they get to this point, and we didn't learn enough about some of the characters before they were just beating each other up or convincing the other ones to beat each other up. And yeah, it was that lacked a little bit. The second one is the core of the film, that there isn't a solid thread, or it doesn't feel like there's a solid thread running through the core of this film other than they gonna fight. So we've got, that's the drive of the movie, that these guys are gonna have a fight. It's the title of it. And we've got Lex twiddling with his Kryptonian science kit, but there's sort of a lack of peril about it. Quite a lot of things are coincidence and circumstance, and I don't know, there needs to be, it doesn't have to be a ticking clock, but that'd help, but there needs to be something, one thing pulling it through in the middle. The third point is the DCU setup, which we've already spoke about. It's too much. Some of these will answer with other answers, so they'll probably get glossed over with what we talk about. Another one is that Lois didn't feel relevant in this. She's a big character in the franchise, and she became a bit damselly in this. I know she is to be saved by Superman, but there was something very two-dimensional about her in this film. Lex Luthor, the casting is one thing that people were not happy with the casting. I understand what he was doing with the sort of the metaverse, the Zuckerberg-y kind of thing. Even taking the lead out of Social Network, of course, you can see what was going on there. But we don't learn anything about Lex Luthor. This is a very presumptive thing that we already know who he is. Yes, we do, but not in that universe. And we just kind of, oh, look, he's trying to destroy Superman. Not that much explanation. We don't get any character building or his arc. We just get, oh, here he is, the evil guy. He knows everything. He knows who they are. And there isn't really, it felt like we needed more of the Luthor building. And then the last one is the tone. Like, DC is dark, right? But this is so bleak. So many people get killed. And the level of destruction in this film is like absolute. It looks like the world is ending. It's like this isn't even the Justice League movie. This is like where obviously they did go off the deep end with the desolation, but there was a level of Battle of New York. It was focused in New York. Yes, they destroyed masses of it, but they weren't scything down buildings and toppling them in seconds. There was an unusual level of
There was, yeah,
gloominess, I think.
that's the thing. In Marvel movies, there's chaos in those cities.
Yeah.
What we got in the DC movies was levels of destruction on par with like Transformers movies, which
Yeah.
was always way over the top for what it was. And the problem with those kind of movies is that you can have the chaotic, you can have that massive destruction. If you don't, you kind of feel like you're being shortchanged. But at the same time, you're also creating such extreme levels of destruction that it just becomes too bleak. And yeah, and it's just it was almost this weird trap, and it became contrived then because it was like, oh, they're fighting in the docks or the harbor. Good, they're
Mm.
away from everybody. There's a bunch of abandoned buildings they can smash. And it just
Oh,
then it becomes
it's uninhabited.
yeah,
It's like, okay, cool.
it becomes contrived, and Justice League suffered from the same thing, where it's now in this uninhabited place. We're good; they can do whatever they want now. It's like
Yeah.
you might as well just play, a wrestling video game and just settled it that way, or played FIFA or something. I mean,
Yes.
it's just
Yeah.
that's what it feels like at the end of the day. Then, but anyway,
Yeah, a
yeah,
little bit. A little bit. There was a tone issue that
yeah,
kind of came out of the action, I think.
yeah.
So going back to the first one is the rivalry. So there's it's weird. There's almost a level of hypocrisy in this. So both Batman and Superman, I mean, we'll go into Batman in detail, I'm sure, but Batman and Superman have got blood on their hands in this film. Whether it's first or second degree blood, there's blood on their hands, right? Or I guess Superman's guilty of mass manslaughter on on a certain level, but it feels like they're both pointing the finger at one another somehow, going, it's you're killing all the people, but they're killing people as well. There's a level of, I don't know, I think hypocrisy is the best way to say it, from both of these characters who are supposed to be like true blue heroes, and I don't know, it feels very easy for them to all of a sudden just be duking it out. I don't quite get how easily they were thrown into this battle by Luthor pulling some very transparent strings.
I really like the opening bit on the film where it's all the destruction from the end of Man of Steel, which was criticized for being over the top, but then seeing it from Bruce Wayne's perspective, I thought, oh wow, what an interesting kind of spin on this. And then, the idea that Bruce Wayne loses a lot of his people in Wayne Towers, the idea that he's got this girl in his arms, sheltering her from the rubble, and he's looking up in kind of anger at everything. And he just sees this glimmer of this glimpse of this guy flying past. I thought that's brilliant. I love that. Like, this isn't even the end of that sequence yet, and Bruce is already
Yeah.
out for vengeance. And I thought that was a really cool setup, because I got, all right, Bruce Wayne is out for revenge. It is not.
Mhm.
I disagree with the idea of there being two superheroes or whatever, or it's not a difference in philosophies. It's, I don't care who you are or what you're capable of. There are hundreds of families that I am fighting for here. Not everyone loves the Superman, And I thought, I almost had this kind of, there's a wonderful image in Man of Steel where, because Zack Snyder is great at the iconic, creating those iconic visuals, those comic book visuals that we've come to love. And there's one where it's Superman saving a group of people huddled on the roof of a house during a flood or a tsunami or something
Yeah.
like that.
I mean, Zack Snyder does some beautiful stuff. Like, whatever he does looks so good. Like, visually, it is incredible. I don't think I've ever looked at anything Zack Snyder's done and gone, could have been better. Like, visually, he's a spectacular sort of set piece director.
And he's great at being able to create the iconography of a character in one shot. Like, that's it. He's God. You pray to Superman now because he's the one who will answer your prayer. And I love that. You got this image, but then I also imagine that at the same time, there's probably people in Metropolis who are hoping Superman doesn't come, because what he can bring with him is danger and destruction, and we've seen that already. And so I love the idea that Batman represents the people. He's human, and therefore he represents some of the human way of thinking around us. And I love that idea of critically questioning the presence of these super beings. And then there's the moment later on where Bruce is walking through the Batcave or whatever, and you see Robin's outfit.
Yes.
and it's got Joker's graffiti over it. And this is clearly a reference to Death in the Family, where Robin is murdered by
Mm.
Joker. And I thought, okay, that's really interesting too. Where this is like maybe this is a Batman who's lost people and will not lose anyone else. And
Mm.
I just thought that makes total sense. Um,
Yeah.
you are right though. There is this weird kind of thing then where Superman doesn't like Batman, but Batman is far less destructive than Superman is.
Mm.
And I do feel it's one of those cases where you need a movie of Batman by himself. You need, let's say, the Robert Pattinson movie, although not the Robert Pattinson, because I love that movie and I don't want anything. I don't want it to get.
Yeah.
I don't want Superman anywhere near any. I don't want any super beings anywhere near those films. But you want something on that level of credibility where you can have trucks being turned upside down and like highways car chases that are just ending in
Mm.
carnage and people having to retire because of their injuries and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
You want that kind of
We needed
chaos.
feeding into this film
Exactly.
with a solo Batman movie before, not because it was planned for after and it never happened, but it's supposed to be, should have been before. And we jumped into a universe where it relied on us knowing who Batman was. Yeah, we got a bit of the origin, which we've seen a lot anyway. You don't always need to do that origin, but we didn't have any Batman before this, and we were just, oh, here he is, there's Batman, that's Alfred, done. Okay, those are the guys.
So my pitch is for this solution, right? Is this is probably be my big pitch for this episode. But you have Man of Steel as is, fine. And then at the end you then have a Batman film. And in the third act of the film, and it doesn't have to be about Joker, but in the third act of the film, Joker is going to kidnap Robin. And Batman's got this ticking clock. He's got to save the day and he's got to get to Joker's lair so he can save Robin. You know that the minute he gets there, he'll save Robin. And so you're playing into Death in the Family. And then as he's racing, he saves he does this thing, he stops the other baddie or whatever, and then he's on his way. Okay, I'm coming, Robin. And then you just hear Alfred in the earpiece saying, Master Bruce, you have to stop. You have to turn around right now. And he's like, no, I'm nearly there. I can save Robin. And he's like, no, you've got to listen to me. You've got to get to Metropolis right now. They need you more than Robin does. And then you realize this whole film is playing out at the same time as near the end of Man of Steel.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And maybe you said
like
the whole film could be a real time 24 hours movie so that you're not really getting caught up in the arrival of the Superman stuff that's going to be happening on the news or anything. It could be he's just concentrating on his own stuff, and it could be one night in a one night long mission, the whole movie. And then so you're avoiding the news articles and all that about Superman, and then there's something happening in Metropolis. You need to get there right now. And he's so distracted by Robin, he's so distracted by everything, he missed everything going on with Superman. And now he puts on the news or whatever, he sees the image on his screen on the Batmobile, and he just turns the car around. And as he's watching, he's holding the girl and he's watching Superman fly by, you hear Robin's earpiece cut in, and it's the Joker laughing, and Robin is dead. Or you have Master Bruce, you hear the sirens arriving, and it's Master Bruce. I'm sorry, but they didn't get there in time and all that. And now it's like you fucking cost me everything.
So I like that we can give him a loss.
Yeah,
because yes, he's staff and he's his friend and all that kind of stuff, but everyone else experienced the same thing. That wasn't unique to Bruce Wayne, that he lost people in this like very 9/11 feeling, destruction of his environment, his office, and
but that's what it is. Everything. That's what it is. More than that, it is bigger.
It's like it's so 10 9/11s, right? Exactly, it's just loads of people died, but that doesn't make his story unique because so many people, there were tens of thousands of deaths in this thing. So many people will have been one step removed or died in this thing, so it doesn't make his story unique, right? So I like the idea that he loses. I mean, this is new for this show that we'd say, right, and have an entire other film before this film.
But isn't that the problem?
But we did.
Isn't
But the thing
yeah.
is, if there wasn't another film, we could lead in with that. We could lead in, come in late to the scene. He's on the way to save Robin.
Yeah.
You can just come in. You can just come in there.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to do a whole other film. You can just come in there, and
you cut out the real slow motion origin story of Batman, which we've seen 1,000 times.
We don't need that. We don't need that.
Like I said, this is a movie that is predicated on the fact that you know all these characters and care about them in the first place. So yeah, why do we need to tell you he fell down a well or whatever? You know,
exactly. So if we're gonna rely on pre-film stuff, we need to show at least a link to that. So this would work well. This actually feeds into a point. This is something that I've heard a number of people say, so that I can't claim ownership over this idea. That so let's say, for example, that Bruce turns up there as Batman. So he's on the way to save Robin. He's not Bruce Wayne. He's Batman. When he gets her in the Batwing, gets grounded, completely destroyed. He can't do anything about it. Similar kind of thing, and he loses Robin. So the businessman running into or watching the destruction of part of his empire and his staff could be Luthor. Like, it could be Luthor. Wow. It would give him such a Thanos-y kind of vibe. The idea that this guy needs to be destroyed. He's killing everyone and my legacy. So therefore, I feel I'm acting for the greater good. You know, there could be a really nice slant on, because Bruce Wayne and Lex Luthor, I know they're not the same character, like their characters aren't the same, but they're rich philanthropists, genius guys who've got a big influence in a city. Do you know what I mean? So why not have Luthor be watching this happen? And I know this is a later point, but this all of a sudden gives him a true motivation instead of, I'm going to get Superman. Do you know what I mean? That was, again, another one of the things that we needed to rely on, that we knew that, you know, Lex Luthor was this supervillain that just wants to kill Superman so he can take over the world, kind of thing. And it felt very flat, but to have that, switch them out, might work well.
I think that, you know, this opening scene, the destruction of Metropolis, is really, you know, it is the beating heart of that. And it's a real personal thing that we can all connect to. We understand the anger people felt after 9/11, for example, or any other type of event where there's so much loss of life and destruction, and they had a chance to tap into something there where, you know, Spielberg did in War of the Worlds, you know, people running away from this threat and covered in dust and everything, you know, and it was all that very heavy. All those visuals with lots of connotations to them being employed, and this could have been something like that. Instead, it felt very, as you say, very not unique. And yeah, this, you know, the way it's handled right now, this is the event that should birth a villain, not create the rivalry. Because of the way he handled it. But actually, you put a little bit more of a unique personal loss to Bruce Wayne's experience. And now you're also pitting the audience then against, because it's like, I get why Bruce is doing this now. And screw Superman, actually, I want him gone now, you know. And that's what you should be doing as well. This should very much like, I'm Team Batman, I'm Team Superman kind of thing. You know?
And you're then feeding into your solo Batman film, which would follow. Justice League shouldn't be following this. It'd be like, jumping straight to Endgame immediately after Avengers 2.
They really rushed it. Rushed it.
We could have done with an extra couple of films, like the Flash film could have come before. Could have come before Justice League. That might have introduced a few interesting anomalies that they could have played with in this environment. But for example, the Batman being a murderer now, I know what the decision that was made here. It's like the stakes are so big, you can't get out of this without killing the other, right? It's like I kind of understand that, but they should have reserved that for the rivalry. So if Batman was still sticking to his no-kill rule, he would know the only way to stop Superman, because it is to kill him. because this isn't someone he can just knock on his ass and send to Arkham Asylum. He's just too powerful. He needs to kill this guy. That's the only way, and it would have so much more meaning that he was still no kill Batman, and he had to struggle as we've seen him do with Bane and the Joker, and you feel the turmoil and the conflict within him. And it would be a great character beat for him to go, talk to Arthur about it and say, look, Alfred about it and say, look, I have to kill him. Like that's the only option I've got. This man can't carry on.
I think that would have been very good as well. I think even on a basic level, if you wanted to be the kind of the level of thinking that we got from the film, you could just have him say, if I'll do this to somebody, to some low level human trafficker, because he beats up a few traffickers at the beginning, doesn't he? And there's some people locked in a room or something, and then he brands them and stuff. He's like, if I'm going to do that to them, imagine what I'll do to the person who destroyed Metropolis. And like it could be like, I'm going to decapitate you. This is going to, and I love the line. It is one of the great lines of comic book movies, I think, that never gets enough credit. Well, maybe it does, but it's the do you bleed? You will. It is incredible the way the voice box and everything, the audio, you don't see his eyes either. It's almost like Darth Vader saying something in Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's this wonder. It's all there, just the cowl doing all the work, and do you bleed? You will. And Superman is just like, I'm not even going to humor this conversation. It is the greatest. Like, I bet you every MMA fighter at that time was just like, God, I wish I could have said that, in one of my showdowns on UFC or something like that.
Everyone's going to want to say
Vince
that.
McMahon was probably like, oh God, I wish we had written that into something in WrestleMania or something. It was just, I bet even Marvel must have been envious at that line. It's incredible.
But I wonder which Chris Terrio or David Goyer which of them is a fan of Shane Black, because if it bleeds, we can kill it is obviously.
Oh yeah, classic. Of course, yeah.
And it's everyone wants to say that line in some way, shape, or form, and they did it. They did it in this film, and it's like yes.
It is, and I would actually say this is my favorite, let's say, version of that line, or of that. It's brazen. He's asking the man, like, this is Superman can crush him with his finger, like with his thumb and his index finger. And he's saying this directly to him, Arnold Schwarzenegger wasn't saying it directly to the Predator, it was, and I love how brave Batman is in this film. He is not
Batman he's kick-ass in this film,
and he's genuinely not afraid of the alien Superman. I love that so much. I do think Ben Affleck did an amazing job as Batman and doesn't get enough credit for it.
Other than the mowing people down with machine guns and blowing them up and stuff, it feels like they got Batman. So they went a step too far with, obviously there was all the dialogue about you've gone too dark, and they tried to point at it as in, oh no, he's progressed past a comfortable place ethically, but that didn't land for me. But the Batman in this was brilliant.
Yeah.
Like the scene that everyone talks about where he's going to get Martha Lane. Is it? No, sorry, Martha Kent. What am I saying?
Martha Kent, yeah.
Martha Kent is brilliant. It is awesome. Yes, he blows someone up by shooting them, like at the end. Oh, you nearly made it into a full Batman scene, like without any missteps. But he is kick-ass. It feels like a Batman. He's terrifying to the criminals. He's terrifying to the police. And his Bruce Wayne is good. He's an interesting Bruce Wayne, and there's a vulnerability, an emotional vulnerability to him that that Bruce Wayne has in the comic books. And it is great. I really applaud the Batman in this film. However, the Superman feels there's something off about him, and I think this feeds into the rivalry point that they made him too Kryptonian. Like all of a sudden, it felt like he was an alien. I know that's what they were saying in the papers, but he grew up in, was it Kansas?
Yeah.
He was effectively born and grew up in Kansas. and he would feel like a farm boy from Kansas, not a Kryptonian.
I think,
You know,
if anybody needed the flashback of when they were young, it wasn't Bruce Wayne, it was Clark. Actually, you got to remind us that he's from Earth. He might not have. He was sent to here, but he's from here. It's kind of, and he yeah, it doesn't help when it's all the god iconography is being used. It doesn't help when they keep talking about him as this kind of other, and him coming into, like, him hovering into court and stuff like that is again doesn't help his case of trying to say, I'm one of you guys, like it's or hovering up the steps or whatever it is. He's doing too much. He's distinguishing himself from everybody else too much.
yeah,
And it's not a
yeah.
film that needs that, because we know who he is.
I think that's nice. I think that's nice, because every time they say there is someone talking about him being alien invader or whatever they're saying, like, I mean, you could imagine him flashing back to being a boy in Smallville, and you could immediately you'd understand how much it hurts him, because he feels like a human.
I think he needed an arc in that film where he was, maybe he was being bullied or something by a kid or something. I don't know. Maybe that would link too much. Is Batman bullying Superman? But maybe you link it back to something where he needed his mother, and Martha was there for him, and it's like it's a triggering moment for him then when he says when Martha, when it's like, I've got to save Martha, and all that. But okay, let's talk about the Martha situation.
Oh, Martha.
Okay. Doesn't it just highlight, it's almost like they didn't, it's almost like Warner Bros. Really don't understand storytelling sometimes, or whoever's I mean, it's hard to tell who's responsible for the story beats in these types of movies, because even if they're accredited screenwriters, a movie like this is not going to be independent from the studio executives or anything like that. And so the idea that you want to highlight that your two flagship characters of your studio, not even your cinematic property, but your actual movie studio, your two flagship properties their mothers share the same name. Like, that's something you should not be highlighting. Like, when that came up in the movie, you've got to save Martha, and then he's like, Martha, why are you saying my mother's name, or whatever it is that he says? I'm like, okay, interesting connection, or let's see what they do with it. But also, how have I never noticed that before? Like, I think a lot of people, when they were in the cinema watching that, were like, how have I never noticed that before? They both their mothers have the same first name. That's so strange. It's like,
I kind of feel they got caught on that. So I've done it when I'm writing stuff. There's like a really serendipitous fact of like, oh my goodness, I never knew that, and then you try and get it in there, but it's not important.
Yeah,
it's not important. It is a great like circumstance that they had the same name, and now they're in the same film, but they
shouldn't have the same first name. Like, I know these were different properties acquired or whatever over the years, and it was never any intention, way back when they were first created, for any of this stuff to be happening. But you must have known, like how many times have Batman and Superman been in the same comic together? Like, at a certain point, you could have phased out the idea that one of them is called Martha. And I don't think the fans would have been too critical of it if you said, and maybe that would have pitted fans against each other. But I don't know. It just feels like you just don't lean on that. Don't lean on that idea.
He could have said mother. He could have said mother.
Yeah.
You're letting him kill my mother. It would have had the same weight, if not more, and there would have been less confusion. Yeah. I think the Martha, it's a controversial point to talk about, I think, particularly in the DCEU. And it's...
Okay, are you okay with the idea of it being like, the thing that makes Batman ease up is they've got your mother? Like, I've lost my mother. I can help them save your mother. Like, is that? Are you okay with that idea?
I think if we're leaning into Superman's humanity being questioned, then yes, because Batman all of a sudden realizes he's very human.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
not invulnerable, and neither is his family, and his mother is going to be killed, as
Yeah.
his was. And he's like, oh, I like that. I
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
works. It feels like it's diffused very, very quickly, but to change it from Martha to Mother, like for me,
Yeah.
that makes more sense.
It's not that, even though I think people will argue it's the same thing at the end of the day that's triggering, but, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's the same trigger for Bruce to kind of say, okay, I'm in. But it's just that one word change for me. There's a ridiculousness to the idea that with all my anger, with everything I've done, oh, we have the same first name. You could just imagine the great rivalries in history. And it's like, would that be enough? Um, would that same would that interesting factoid be enough to stop that, to bring people down from their horses or whatever in the middle of a duel or something? Like, probably not. And so it did undermine, I think, the fury of that fight, that one word was enough. Whereas actually, yeah, as you said, I think it's the meaning behind it that should have come through more, and not
Mm.
this piece of trivia, which is ultimately what we're left with.
So
That's what
yeah,
it feels like. I'm not sure if that's making sense. I'm getting trivia from that moment. I'm like, oh yeah, they have the
yeah.
same first name. Whereas what I should be getting is, oh yeah, you lost your mother. Help him save his. There you
I
go.
think it was trivialized by making the point a piece of trivia. Like it
Yeah.
didn't need that. It could have been Mother,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there wouldn't have been the whole awkward bit of why did you say that name? And then Lois runs in and that's his mother's name. We needed it explaining.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
might have worked if we all knew the names were the same and we just understood in the moment what was happening, but we had to have it explained.
Mm.
So I think Mother would have
Again,
done it.
again, a weird example where, again, so much of this movie is predicated on prior history, of prior knowledge. Like, why do we care about Batman versus Superman at all as a movie idea? It's because we've seen Batman movies and we've seen Superman movies, and we've seen, we've played with these IPs in the past. So all of this is predicated on us knowing stuff already, and yet they feel the need in this movie to signpost us to information that is completely irrelevant, in many ways. And so, yeah, it's this very weird kind of hypocrisy overall in the film, in the philosophy behind the writing of it.
Yeah, I think it kind of points us in the direction of the next point, which
Mm,
is the core of the film feels a bit hollow.
yeah.
And I think what we've discussed in the first bit about the rivalry is there's a story missing about the identity of the two heroes. So and I know they try and push at this, but they don't really get it there. I think the Ultimate Cut does a better job because it's got an extra 30 minutes. Does a better job of what the central story is, but it doesn't quite get there. It's about Clark versus Superman, as you say. It's about Kryptonian versus human within him, and there are people doubting who he is. We could have a duality in this story where Clark is also being he's questioning his place in humanity, as well as Superman is questioning his place as a Kryptonian. And with Batman, is he a failed father? Is he a failed friend? With Robin's death, like it feels like there is, like I say, there's the whole Lex trying to get them to fight thing, and there's a sort of discrimination kind of
Mm.
vibe going on for all the characters, but it doesn't land. What do you think about the core of the film?
Yeah, it's, to me, when I think about what the core of this film is, I'm thinking it is establishing the universe of Justice League. That's what I feel when I'm watching this film. I'm not I it and I had time for this movie a lot before the new Robert Pattinson Batman film came out, because I wanted that. I wanted a kind of a grittier Batman. I love the Nolan films, but well, 2 out of 3. But I would have, I also want. I love what he did with that, but I also want other versions of Batman as well, and I liked what they were doing with this. I feel like I've now gotten that with the most recent Matt Reeves one. Um, so there's very little actually for me in this movie, other than it's world building for the Justice League. It's very cheap in the way it does that. Maybe we can talk about that maybe in another point later. But the I don't feel like there's a core to it. I feel like there needs to be some experiment in play, and I think the real challenge for a movie like this is you are exploring philosophies. When you put two people against or two politicians against each other, it's not about, it shouldn't just be whether or not you like them as people. It should be, do you like their philosophies? Do you like their whose policies are you going to side with? And when you look at, two heroes pitted against each other, it's whose point of view are you most likely to engage with? I was perfectly, I was excited by the idea that they could make me come around to Superman. I'm not a fan of Superman as a character, but I was thinking if Zack Snyder like, the real test for this is if he can make me side with Superman's philosophies and his beliefs and all that, which of course, why wouldn't you? I mean, he's the force of good, but he's boring, I think, as a force of good. He's too good. And I thought, it'd be nice if there was kind of a darker element to it. And I thought, if you can make me really care about that, then great. I didn't. I just constantly felt like, yeah, Batman does need to keep this guy in check. Now, somebody may need to keep Batman in check as well. But again, there's no conversation about that, is there, in this? Yeah, it almost felt like at its core, this should be two people. The world hates these two people. And they need each other. But I don't feel there's anything there other than let's fight. I really.
Yeah, so I guess
yeah.
I guess it's a similar sort of idea with the Dark Knight trilogy, where he becomes what people, he's hunted. Kind of thing, that there is something interesting in that the hero that carries on even though he is despised for whether it's the wrong or the right reasons, and self-questioning of their place in the world and whether they're doing the right thing. I think the film tries to do that, but it doesn't, because it's too much focused on the mechanics of the conflict.
There's also an ego thing here with some of the characters. Like, there is a part of me that thinks, okay, Batman, I know that Superman is, like, we as an audience know that Superman is not evil. We know he's not a bad person at his core, and he might have been involved in highly destructive and terrible events, but we know he was trying to do good in those moments. Like, he screamed out and cried when he had to kill his fellow Kryptonian. Like, that there is something powerful in that moment at the end of Man of Steel. And so we know inherently he's not bad. And we just almost want to get Batman into the room and say, look, just sit down and talk to this guy and get to know him. And even Clark is kind of, Bruce Wayne Superman is almost kind of saying the same thing. It's like, I'm not your enemy in this. I might not like that you're running around the place because I can be doing that, but still, we don't have to be enemies. That there is that kind of element there where Superman isn't exactly looking for a fight. And yet all of that is in a movie where we want him to fight, whereas actually we know there's no need for him to fight. And so I think what you really need to create is a situation where they have to fight because of some contrivance that is that is more like, actually, weirdly, one of the stronger moments in the film is when Lex tells Superman, go kill Batman. Like, go kill Batman and your mother will be safe. And it's like, wow, now Lex is very brave. But it's like, okay, there's a legitimate reason now for him to go and fight Batman, for him to seek out Batman. And I wonder, actually, if you did something that was similar to the end of The Dark Knight, where Gordon has to now hunt Batman. And it's, Gordon never really wanted to hunt Batman, but now there's a legitimate reason for him to have to hunt Batman, even though he doesn't want to. Imagine a world where Batman is a fugitive being hunted by Superman because Superman has to keep up appearances. Or a world where Batman is able to gain his legitimacy, or is able to buy himself out of the doghouse, so to speak, with the people in Gotham, if he can keep Superman at bay. We don't want Superman in Gotham because we can't afford what happened in Metropolis. So here's like, Gordon, take your dog off the leash and make sure he keeps, if there was something like that,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
might,
that's
and
nice.
you can lean into the idea of we're allies, but we will see each other on the battlefield again.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, I like that. I just like the idea that we flesh out the inner conflict and
Mm.
outer conflict of their character, because without that
It has
it's
to be.
just
It
a
has to be an
siege.
exploration. It has to be an exploration of. I've been rambling about this point, but in short, it has to be an exploration of what these people are bringing to our society, and is it good? Is it bad? Um, and are they the solution to each other's threats as well as each other's, are like the threat that each other brings to the table for society? Are they keeping each other in check? It's almost like a nuclear arms race. They're a deterrent to each
Yeah.
other, and there won't be a victor because there is no victor in any of these kinds of
Mm.
fights. I don't know. I feel like
Well,
that.
I think it's interesting about what you were saying about Luther and the Superman's mother, etc. That still works so well because it's his mother, and he doesn't know where she is. She's going to die unless he does this. Great. We've seen how he is with Lois. Like, he'll just drop whatever he's doing and go and get Lois. He's got like some sort of Lois tracker on him, or on her, and having Batman's loss adapted as it is, in the version that we're writing now, it works. The fact that Superman gets there and he immediately tries to kill him, because that felt slightly off to me. Literally, Superman turns up and he's trying to decapitate him
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
because, yes, he's killed a lot of people, but there wasn't a. How much blame would he put on that without having a deep, deep personal loss like Robin in
yeah,
that
yeah.
conflict? You know what I mean? So I think that now works really, really well, and we can keep the hook of Martha without saying Martha. I
And
think I think that works.
you can explore as well the idea that um Batman is doing all of this for selfish reasons. He is doing this so that the world doesn't feel the way he felt, but really it's to appease his own. He doesn't want other kids in Gotham to wake up and find that their parents have been taken from them.
Mm.
But it is a selfish thing at the end of the day. He wants to make himself feel better.
You can imagine Alfred challenging on that,
Yeah, yeah, and it's
like a
like who?
really
Yeah,
gritty emotional scene of him
yeah,
saying, "No, you absolute hypocrite! You're not doing this to because you
yeah,
want the children to wake up happy. You're doing this for revenge."
yeah, yeah, and
And you can,
yeah.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
Alfred then would, because I really love that version of Alfred as well.
It was great,
I
wasn't it? It
love
was
Jeremy
really good.
Irons is perfectly cast in that, and brought something really new to the table on that front. And I just love that idea that he would have been the guy, like to like sock him in the face and just say, "Am I a 1960s Batman now? Sock him in the face."
Yeah, bam.
Like really, like like floor Bruce Wayne and just say, "Stop wasting everybody's time. Be honest with yourself. We've all jumped through hoops for you on this, and look where it's got us.
That'd be great. And he could break his hand, and
Yeah,
he
yeah,
could really,
exactly. Yeah,
he's
yeah,
floored him, but he's broken his fist,
yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah.
You could see it. That'd be
And
great.
and
I
that,
like that.
yeah, yeah.
So I think what we just spoke about with the core of the film, and previously about the rivalry, I think we kind of touched on, or even answered the DCU setup, is thin that out. We've got we need other films surrounding this film
Yeah.
before and after, rather than squash it all in here. The Wonder Woman introduction, I really liked her in this. I liked how they fed into the Wonder Woman movie in that single photograph. I thought that was so strong, especially watching it now after I've seen Wonder Woman and Justice League and Aquaman. Like, wow, that worked. That really, really worked. They took that old photo and it was the gang, and you're like, oh, it's Chris Pine and Ewan Bremner. Look at them. What are they doing on there? And I kind of like that. But when you get to the videos of Flash and Aquaman and Cyborg being built, like, it was just too much. Like, I
And
didn't.
somebody pointed out, I think it was Mr. Sunday Movies, which I think I listened to his review of that when the film came out. They had pointed out, I'm sure others have as well, where this is all, I think Wonder Woman, is it, that hacks? Is it Wonder Woman hacks Lex, or
Bruce hacks it,
Bruce hacks it. Okay,
and then he mails it to Diana
yeah.
and goes, "Oh, I did it. Here you go."
Yeah, and here's all these, but there's all these clips, but they all have their logos next to them, and so somebody at LexCorp did the branding for these superheroes. Like that's the thing, right? Like Flash's logo was created by somebody at LexCorp.
It's funny, isn't it?
Because it's either that or they all had their own logos, and then LexCorp did use them as folder designators or something.
All these multinationals have their own branding agencies. I wouldn't be surprised.
It's so strange. It's so strange, and it's so weirdly thought through. And I was convinced. The other issue with that is that there's too many teases for them to make appearances in the third act. You've introduced them in the second act. You've got these video clips of them. But then there's a scene in the third act where Lois is I think she's at risk of drowning, I think, is she? I thought,
she's hitting the stone.
Yeah, and I thought, of course, Aquaman is going to save the day.
Yeah,
and no, it never happens. And I just thought, well, that was disappointing. And then because why else would you show him? Why else would you introduce the water guy?
It was too much, too quick. Or actually, it was too much of too little.
Yeah, because
here's a little bit of that guy, a little bit of that guy, a little bit of that guy. We're gone. And it feels like there were a few points in the film where we could have seen more of something, but they didn't need this. And then you've got all these dream sequences, which were cool as anything. I loved seeing those dream sequences, but they didn't necessarily mean a whole lot. And were they visions?
It's kind of telling me that, of course, Superman is... Because Superman dies at the end of this, but you're basically telling me, don't worry, he'll be back, and I'm like, yeah, I know he's going to be back, but you're not supposed to tell me he's going to be back,
But is Bruce seeing?
I think dreams, because there is the Dark Side logo in the dirt. Like, he doesn't know who that is, right? I think it's the Flashpoint. It's so that is actually Flash going back in time.
So we've got Flash. The Flashpoint thing happens in a dream. Within a dream.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah,
and it's like, is that Flashpoint, or is he dreaming that? What?
I see what you mean.
Are they dreams? And like, how is the Dark Side logo in the dream if it's a dream? So that means it must be a vision. Who's making the visions happen? Because I don't think Flashpoint would put.
Yeah, no, it couldn't work
visions
in
the
that way.
past. It doesn't. So that for me didn't pay off, and it felt like they were trying to expand the universe.
And he's even
if they can do that, I like that. Have a reason. Tell us.
But he's even saying stuff like Lois is the key and all that, and it's like Lois doesn't do anything in this film, as you said before. So
I mean, that's the next point, really. I think with the DCEU, if we know what we need to do. We just need to have more films, less of these sort of expositional like coincidences going, oh look, there's a guy who can run really quick in this quickie mart, and there's a guy who swims around and stabs a drone underwater, and we don't need any of that. But the lowest point is interesting because they stripped away any of the sorry
to interrupt you. I love exactly how you described Aquaman. Like, you've got this, like, he's the prince of the sea. He's led armies into battle, I'm sure, and all that kind of stuff, and a bunch of them just sat around a room there thinking, okay, what could we do as Aquaman's introduction? What could we do to really sell you on all of these different characters? He destroys a drone in the water. Like, that's it. That's the best you can do. Are you kidding me? Like,
I mean, I think Momoa is awesome.
Yeah, he's great.
And I think his Aquaman is great. And the introduction he gets in Justice League and the trailers for Justice League was brilliant.
Yeah.
He's absolutely brilliant, with the White Stripes track playing, and he's downing bottles of whiskey. I was like, oh, this guy's cool. There was none of that. There was none of that because we didn't have time to introduce that character, and I felt it belittled it a little bit.
Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off.
That's all right. I was going into the lowest point, which is they've just damselified her. Like, she's just a damsel. The amount of time Superman has to drop what he's doing, he's in the laundrette, she's drowning, he's got to leave his clothes in the machine. Like, he's constantly just running, flying after her. and it's just, I don't know. It felt like one or two times too many.
Yeah, yeah.
Margot Kidder was kick ass. Yeah, they made her a little bit, ditzy, I guess, in certain points, but she falls off the falls. He has to get her. She gets dropped from a helicopter, and Zod gets her. But that's over like 3 films, right? There isn't a whole that I know he's there to save her, and she dies, and he turns back time, and all that. I'm talking about the Christopher Reeves films
Yeah.
here. Like yes, that is
You
part
know,
of the film, but
okay,
all she does in this film is get saved. That's it.
I'm gonna pitch you a solution to that. I'm quite proud of this. Just came to me. Maybe somebody else has
Go.
got this already.
Good.
She has figured out who Batman is because she's an investigative journalist,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
she's a threat to Bruce Wayne, or
Right.
she's in the middle of figuring it out, and it's like, and that's her way. It's like Batman is trying to kill my partner, the man I love. If I expose who Bruce Wayne is, and maybe she does some dodgy deals where like she's gotten information from somebody, Viola Davis, or someone like that, maybe in Gotham, and because she's in that, isn't she? I think she's in the post credits, and for the Suicide Squad. And so like you get this thing where she's an investigative journalist. Use her as an investigative journalist. She's going to crack who the Batman is to help. So Superman doesn't have to fight. So the threat isn't Superman fighting. Superman doesn't have to fight Batman because Superman can just sneeze and Batman dies. Batman needs to hit hard at Superman if he wants to make a dent in Superman. But all Superman needs is Lois to make a dent and ruin Batman.
Nice.
So rather than Superman using his brute force, which you would expect, we'll get that eventually anyway. But the general conflict is Batman's trying to build gadgets to be able to hit harder, and Superman is just like, Lois, do your thing.
I like.
So
Superman is trying to uncover him using Lois.
Yeah, because it's
what does?
Because Superman can't kill him. What's he going to do? What's he going to do? Kill him? Like he's proving everybody wrong then, or proving everybody right then, that he's a danger.
So what does Batman do? Because that could be a whole mechanic for another reason that Superman wants to. He does eventually fight him. Like what?
I don't know. I imagine maybe Lex doesn't want Batman's identity being exposed, and maybe there's that weird thing where Lex is like, I'll give you the kryptonite, because I want you to kill Superman, so I'll give you kryptonite, but I'll also make sure that investigation stops. And then, of course, it means Lex is going to kill, or it could be, what it could be? It could be Lex captures Lois. I know we're moving her back into damsel in distress territory, but if she's a really powerful threat to Bruce Wayne throughout the film, then it might not be such a bad. It might not be so kind of criminal at that point in terms of the writing. But if he then says, I did you a favor, Bruce, or I know who you are, Bruce. I did you a favor. And he's like, I didn't ask you to do anything to that woman. Well, no one's really going to believe that now, are they, when the truth comes out? So, good. Here's what you need. You don't need to break into my lab anymore. Here's everything you need. Go stop the Superman. And at the same time, Superman Lex is like, okay, if you want, forget Martha. It could just be, if you want Lois back, go kill Batman. And now he's just played both sides against each other. I mean, it's not the most intelligent version, but it's still more intelligent than we get.
I think there's an interesting point in the fact that both Luthor and Batman want Superman dead.
Yeah, I think that's really.
So there could be an offer somewhere in there from Luthor, an open offer, like, well, let's team up. We're both, because he that's another thing about. We'll get onto Luthor next, but he knows who they are. He already knows who they are, and we don't know how he found that out. But maybe does Luthor use Lois to find that out? Is that how he finds it out?
Maybe he's the source. Actually, yeah, you could do something where Superman is just like, he comes home every night from work thinking, God, that Batman, I don't like him at all. And Lois is like, well, let's get to the bottom of who this is, and she's doing her investigation. That's her project. Who is the Batman is her project. And at the same time, you've got Bruce Wayne then and Alfred trying to figure out ways to stop the Superman. And And then by big twist at the end, it's like I'm the one who gave you. I was your source, Lois. You didn't realize it, but I was the one feeding you that information. Where do you think that information came from in the first place? And you think I let you just break into LexCorp? Like I'm worried about the Superman breaking into LexCorp. So you think you're able to get in there? No, I let you
So
in there.
he secretly helps her to
Mhm.
discover who Batman is.
I think he's
Is
been
that
playing everyone against each other to build up this, to just allow this chaos because he's mad. He's crazy. And if
mm.
it gets rid of Bruce Wayne, he's now the corporate tycoon. If he's the rival
But
to Bruce Wayne.
isn't he doing it? Isn't he trying to find out who Batman is so he can team up with him? With a slight, bit. It's not blackmailing, but there's a slight thing that he now knows who he is. So it's almost in his interest to work with him.
I can't imagine though he would want to allow Batman to live long after Superman's gone though.
No, I mean,
So
that can be.
I would say it's like, okay, you're going to be my best ally in defeating Superman, but you're also the thing that is stopping me. Bruce Wayne is the thing stopping me from being the industry leader, or whatever.
Okay, I quite like that. I quite like that the Luther using Lewis and then finding out who he is and offering him a team up, so an assistance, because that would make sense. That how I mean, what we'll we'll go straight onto Luther right after this because there's so many holes in it. Luther already happens to know what kryptonite is somehow. I don't know how, and he that would explain why Batman gets hold of it. Like he's giving him all of the tools he needs, but he had to use Lois to find out who he was, so he could almost demand the team up with him.
yeah,
Does that work? I'm not quite sure. It
it's
feels
still
slightly
it still
convoluted,
makes more
doesn't it?
sense. It still makes more
Yeah.
sense than the what we've gotten.
Okay, and it gives Lois a thing. It gives her an actual thread
This
to
is the
work
great
with.
Hollywood rewrite. It doesn't have to be the great Hollywood like final draft.
Yeah,
So it's fine.
that's the next show. Um, so the next thing is Luther. So we are just. It is like we should already know who Luther is, why he wants Superman dead. So if we don't know that, then we've come to DC cold. Why does he want Superman dead? Other than him being Lex Luthor and being the guy who hates Superman, like what else do we know about him? There's no character building. How does he know who they are? How does he know how kryptonite works? Why and how does he create Doomsday? And what's his end game
Yeah,
with Doomsday? Like, what is going on there?
I think the problem is that he's literally just a mad scientist, not even a scientist, but just a mad kind of inventor, or he's Dr. Frankenstein, and I don't even think they shy away from that comparison. It's he's just very he's driven by um yeah, he's just delusional. He's whatever. He believes he should be the god. I don't know. I it's very very one dimensional and very flat. And I do think, yeah, you need, and yeah, you can tie it back into those things of maybe he wants to, maybe this is about business. This was never about Superman. This was about business. This was about getting rid of Wayne Enterprises. I don't know, something. But yeah, right now it's very, and it's interesting. Yeah, we know who Lex Luthor is, but I think actually it's far more valuable to watch The Social Network, and then because that's required viewing for this film, isn't it? Man of
Yeah,
Steel and The Social
yeah.
Network are required viewing for this film, because that's all that they were thinking about when Zack Snyder cast him was, oh, you've played um, a billionaire with questionable motives or something. I don't know, driven by you know um, you know basic kind of motivations, of like, I need to get that girl back or whatever it is, and just it's so yeah, so I it's very weird casting, yeah, and
So
a very
I did
strange
have
execution.
yeah. I mean, the casting. He should have. I think in many incarnations of Luther, he's a physical. He's a genius, but he's a physical guy. He's not like Kingpin style physical, but he's quite an intimidating guy. Of course, he can't stand up to Superman at all, but I think that's part of his motivation, that he can stand up to most people, but not this Kryptonian dude. So I think there's to have him more in that vein could help the situation.
Would it have been too much in this already cramped movie to have his father be the villain, and to have Lex perhaps kill his father, or have his father die at the end of this film, or even have his father die at the beginning during the Superman chaos, and then the Man of Steel chaos, and then have him rise up? Like, I feel like he mentions his father, I believe, at some point, and I feel like what Lex seems to be missing here is a mirror to what he is trying to be. And I think, a big mural of his father on the wall behind him, instead of, the red coats or whatever. It's such a weird pun. He said the red capes are coming. And it's
the red capes are coming.
And it's like, yeah, that doesn't really work. It's not just, you've just taken two things that sound similar. It doesn't, I don't know. I didn't feel like that worked very well.
There's some interesting dialogue in that scene, particularly. I mean, the grandma's peach tea was
weird. Yeah, there's a whole, but like a big painting of him played by some other actor. You could almost take Jeff Bridges in Iron Man 1, and have him up
totally.
there, and then it's and you could almost just have him having these conversations with his father, like these one-sided conversations where he's imagining his father's response or something, where everybody's driven by their parent, their heritage, where they came from, and then maybe give more weight to that idea of the protecting the mother or whatever, at the end.
So I see there's quite a lot of, I think there's quite a lot of legs on the idea of having him start off potentially good, and then then he's not. And I like sort of like, if you imagine like the Green Goblin model, where he's having, I mean, he's obviously gone mad afterwards, so he's having conversations with himself or his family, or Harry's having conversations with him, and it's not actually happening. So I think with the Green Goblin model, he starts out, I've forgotten his name. What's the character's name?
Norman Osborn.
Osborn starts off trying to do something big for various reasons, and it drives him crazy. And what he did has made him into a literal supervillain. So Lex Luthor's supposed to be a supervillain, but he doesn't necessarily have powers or anything like that. There are a few opportunities in this film that I felt were lost to sort of introduce something into him. So if we do have Lex as the philanthropist businessman at the start, again, questionable ethically because he's so powerful, the sort of a Bezos thing going on, where it's like, oh yeah, he seems like a good guy, but why is this happening, and why is that happening, and why is all this money over there? And there are questions around it, but he feels he's doing the right thing. He watches everyone die in Metropolis, and he's not happy about this. So he then gets the idea that he wants to stop Superman. There's a moment in this film where he asks the ship, he gets access to the Kryptonian ship, and he asks the ship to teach him. Why can't that be a brain dump from the ship? So he gets a full-on, and he learns everything about the universe, but it drives him slightly crazy. So have that earlier. Up until that point, he seems quite stable. He's Smallville Lex Luthor. He is that guy. He seems like you don't know if you can trust him, but he seems okay. There's a humanity to him. But he asks he says, teach me everything. He gets everything. He goes a little bit crazy, but then he knows how kryptonite works. He knows how to make Doomsday. He knows everything. And that works.
The problem with that, I think, and this is something I see in almost everything Zack Snyder does, he's far too faithful to. Now, I know people might say, well, Watchmen wasn't maybe 100% faithful. I think the third act is quite different. But I do think one of Snyder's faults as a filmmaker is he's far too faithful to source material sometimes. And this is one of those instances where they made Lex bad from the beginning. They made Lex the mad billionaire businessman, whatever, from the beginning, because that's what he's supposed to be, without ever questioning the how, the why, the where, the what, and so on. And as you say, there is this wonderful opportunity to that they're even providing themselves in these stories where they could have just allowed this stuff to occur naturally. I still think the father should have been a role of some sort as a mirror to what he could be. And do we want him to go down that road? Oh, it turns out he could be far worse. I love the idea of him getting that brain dump. I love it. I think that's amazing. I think that's such a simple solution, inherent in the story, the world that they've created already. And I think, the idea that we love Batman, we love Superman, we're as gluttons for spectacle, we want to see them face off. If that is the thing that ultimately triggers Lex to become the villain, who's going to rain terror on this universe for Metropolis anyway, for years to come. The idea that that it came from this thing that we all wanted, I think is nice, because it's almost like the audience becomes complicit in it. Like, you wanted this, and in the chaos of this feud, the crazy Lex was born.
Yeah.
Yes,
I mean, we're almost giving him a new level to his origin, and we're seeing it, which would help, because as far as we can see in this film, the origin's done. Yeah. Yes, he has his head shaved at the end, and he becomes a convict.
Also, it's so, again, so interesting that it's so weird that they put so much emphasis onto, we know that everybody knows Lex Luthor is bald. So wouldn't it be interesting to explain how he becomes bald? Whereas in actual fact, I think people would be more interested to know how he became Lex Luthor, rather than how he became bald. Like, they've put so much weird emphasis on stuff that is completely irrelevant.
Yeah, and I would almost certainly, if I was writing this, dig my heels into the fact that the brain dump would not make him bald.
Yes, yes.
It's too much. It's not. We'll save that for another film. We'll save that for one of the other 9 films before we get to Justice League.
Sorry, was that why he became? No, I thought it was because he was in prison and he was shaved.
In prison.
Oh, yeah. Sorry,
we've created the brain dump for this. If it would be too easy to go. Sorry. It also gets rid of all his hair, it happens to Xavier in the the prequel X-Men. But it's yeah, the whole story of that was how Xavier loses the ability to walk and his hair.
And he gets it back for some reason at some point. Anyway.
Yeah. I think it feels like making Luthor more obvious in many ways, but also, again, more giving him a reason for being as he is. So, one, his motivation. He believes that he's doing the right thing by either slowing down or stopping or killing Superman because of what he did, what he was responsible for. So he has a true belief behind him, and he turns into a literal supervillain by an alien brain dump.
I wouldn't have him get caught at the end. In fact, I would have him win, because the big question is who's going to win in the fight between Batman versus Superman, right? It's Lex is going to win, because it's like, well, who's going to win between this fighter and this fighter in a boxing? Well, the promoter is going to win. They're the one getting the big payday. They're the ones that get all the money. And Lex Luthor is the orchestrator of this whole thing. It's too easy for him to wind up in prison at the end. Oh, if it wasn't for you pesky kids, that's basically what it is in this. And I feel like it would have been so. It would have been they could have gone down the road of kind of the Dark Knight ending, where it's, wow, things really got bad for us now, and the villain is in charge, or that wonderful ending in to the Robert Pattinson Batman film where you see, well, spoilers, but it's you'll see Penguin just staring out the window, and it's like now, and it's his opportunity now to kind of climb up, and step up. And I just think something like that, where it's a dawn of a new era, a dawn of justice, and blah blah blah, and all that corny kind of narration going on, and it's Lex looking out the window, and he's shaved his head now, he's changed his appearance, because what you do. Here's what you do: you have his father constantly ridicule his hair. You have his father constantly say, "Button your top button." Wear a tie. Come on, you're a Luther.
Nice.
Look the part. Blah blah blah. Yeah. And he's like, screw you, Dad. Whatever. And then at the end, Lex Luthor Senior, or whatever his name is, dies for some reason, or maybe he goes to jail, and it's Lex becomes exactly like him. He becomes exactly like his old man.
Yeah. So he's living in the shadow of his father. He's a bit of a tyrant. But I think if he gains this power and he goes a bit crazy, he could kill him.
Yeah.
And then sort of almost struggle with it. So he kills him, and then part of him, the human part of him, or the previous part of him, is still in there, and he could really be upset about it, and then he could disappear into the night, kind of thing.
Yeah,
he's won, but he's lost.
And it could be something where do topple Bruce Wayne. Have there be consequences for Bruce and Batman together in this. Superman faces consequences. He dies in this. Have consequences for Bruce as well, and have Lex rise to the top. It could be that, now, maybe Wayne Enterprises are under investigation because of accusations that are being brought against him, that maybe he is the Batman, and people are like, no, that can't be true. What? And something like that. Like, maybe the article gets out, and now there's a little bit of blood on Lois's hands as well. It's like we started something here by oh crap. And you know how we fix this? More people. That's what's going to fix this. I don't know. I'm not in a position anymore to save the day, guys. And Superman's in the ground. Other people are going to have to rise up against Lex. Right now, at the end of this film, it doesn't feel like there's any need. It's like, something bad is happening on the horizon. Yeah, there's always something bad happening on the horizon. You've been doing this for 20 years. That's not a reason to gather to rally an army. You do it because Lex is in power, and he's being controlled by this alien knowledge. He's being led by this alien knowledge. God knows what he could do. So we need to put a team together. Something like that will galvanize everything, where Bruce is in trouble. Lex has just become more powerful because he's now acquiring all these properties that Wayne Enterprise is having to sell off to pay for its stock dump or whatever. I don't know. It's a stock crash or whatever. Like, I don't know. I feel like really bring us into the dark period of this, universe.
So on the dark period of this universe, the last point.
Good at segueing, aren't you?
Kind of touched on was it was the tone. Yeah, it was the tone. The tone was too dark. The tone was too destructive. But that doesn't mean we can't go there. It just means there needs to be moments of light. There needs to be moments of comic relief. Not booyahs and my mans. It needs to be more than that. I mean, there was a great scene in Justice League where Aquaman sits on the lasso of truth.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Like, I love that. There are levels of brevity that can come from being one of these meta-humans. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I guess there could be a little bit of comic relief from Batman not being one. In this film, he's with Superman and Wonder Woman, the two hardest ones of all of them, and he can't come close to them, but he's fighting alongside them. There is areas for comic relief there. It feels like it needs a lighter tone. I mean, there isn't. I mean, I thought she was with you. It's just confusing. That he emailed her. He emailed her to join. Like, what does it mean? She's with you, Bruce. Have you forgotten?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I think the the Dark Knight is a great example. There are some nice moments of humor in the Dark Knight, and Batman Begins as well. It's tempered, but it doesn't become inappropriate because there is an overall tragic nature to the endings of those stories. Like, even if Batman Begins ends on a positive note, there is the idea of, well, all the prisoners have gotten away, and like, we got a lot of work to do now, and things have kind of become unsettled. So we're able to joke about it, throughout the movie. And then in The Dark Knight, there's a very tragic ending, but it's so when Bruce says, "I'm going to blame the whole thing on you, Alfred," that's okay. There's you can get away with that. Or Batman rescuing Rachel, as they fall down the building, and she makes a kind of a joke at the end. That's okay. There's going to be terrible things happening soon to that character, so you need to kind of measure it a little bit. Like, you got to take the characters who are going to really suffer later on, and you got to have them make a joke or two, because the humor is a way to mask. Yeah. It's so as you say,
Okay.
just lighten it up a bit. Yeah.
Lighten it up, have a few, it doesn't have to be laden with puns and gags, but it needs to be a lighter story. Some of the, Batman and Wonder Woman near indestructible, they would have some sort of humor about them, because almost like a nihilism in a funny way. Like, you could have so much in there. So tonally, I'll go through the list. I'll start with tone. Tonally, we want to lighten it up and give it some.
It's a ridiculous concept.
lighter.
It's a ridiculous concept, and I've always said Batman is an insanely ridiculous concept. The only way it works is if you are able to, you either do the greatest depiction of what it's meant to be, like I think what they did with the Robert Pattinson film. It's meant to be detective story, investigation. So this was like David Fincher levels of investigation done at its best. So it's okay, but if it's not that, if it's going to be car chases and beat 'em ups and all that kind of stuff instead of the detective work, that's fine too. But you've got to signpost how insane this whole premise is then, and they do that to their credit in other movies that we've criticized in the past. This was one film where they needed to do that. So yeah. Anyway, sorry. Yeah.
So it's I mean, it all feeds into this idea that it's skewed somehow, this film, and it carried on going in that direction. So it turned into a Michael Bay kind of visual film, but then it was very, very dark tonally. So we just needed to lighten it up a bit. If we go back to the start, there's the rivalry. I think we did some quite interesting things with this. So we're gonna, it'd be great to have a film before this, a standalone Batman film. But if we don't, we're going to have it open, and Batman's in the middle of trying to save Robin from the Joker. We don't necessarily have to see that. We just know that he's en route to try and save Robin. You can imagine he'd have like a little Robin logo on the screen with the heartbeat. We know he's still alive, kind of thing. And Alfred says, "Get to Metropolis right now. It's being torn apart. Like, thousands of people are dying." He turns up there, and the Batwing, it crashes. He's completely ineffective and he can't make any changes to what's happening. And he sees the destruction as Batman, not Bruce. He sees the destruction of Metropolis.
Just one quick addition to that: it has to be Alfred that orders him to do it. Like, has to drag him kicking and screaming over the radio to do it, so that later Bruce has some resentment. A year later, whatever it is, he's got some resentment to Alfred. Like,
it was your fault.
Yeah,
you were supposed to be a father to both of us.
Yeah. And it's like,
and you can see the flat line, the Robin, like, no, he's gone, and then you can get. You don't even have to see the Joker. You can just hear the laugh.
Yeah, and that's that'll be the most effective thing. It's just the laugh.
Yeah, you just hear the laugh. You don't have to cast a new Joker yet, but there's one coming. And that's going to feed into a whole new Batman film. Yeah. We need this kind of real revenge. It's going to make him question. He's still a no-kill Batman. He's still not killing everyone, but he's going to kill Superman. One, because he has to, because that's the only way to take him down. And two, because he's mad. And Alfred's going to challenge him on this. Although Bruce is just going to fire back, it was your fault that he died. We are going to have Superman. His story is going to be more about his human roots. We're going to see the flashbacks aren't going to be Bruce's, they're going to be Clark's. And we are, every single time his humanity is questioned because he's an alien, we will get him revisiting his youth, whether it's flashbacks, whether he's talking to Martha, whether he's looking at a photo. It doesn't have to be as expositional as this, but he is starting to question whether he is human, although he was born and raised in Kansas, and he feels like a human. He feels like a farm boy. That, like, deep in his heart, he's being forced to question that, and it's difficult for him. Um, the core of the film is going to be about identity. So it's going to be about whether, is Batman doing the right thing? Is he going too far? Is he who he thinks he is? Is he doing it for the benefit of other people, or is he doing it for his own revenge? Clark's identity is going to be questioned by the whole world and himself, although there's only a handful of people know he's Clark, but it's all going to be about his humanity, because then it adds so much more weight to the fact that they are there to kill one another at some point. The DCEU setup, we're going to thin that right out. Wonder Woman, great. We don't need Flash. We don't need Aquaman. And we don't need Cyborg at this point. It just goes too far. We've had 2 films. We need more films around it. We can build out into those. Lois is going to have much bigger role. Luthor is going to actually use her to try and find out who Batman is. And when she succeeds, it's going to be dangerous for her, but when she succeeds, Luthor casts her aside and then tries to team up with Batman. He gives him kryptonite. He gives him all the tools that he needs. Although he's already rich, he doesn't have kryptonite and he doesn't have the knowledge of what it does. So Lex is going to give him this. Lex's arc is going to be very, very different. So early on, we're going to swap him out with Bruce. He's going to see Metropolis torn apart from the ground. He isn't necessarily a maniacal maniac straight up front. He's sort of like Smallville Luthor. He's living in the shadow of his father, who is still alive, and he's constantly pressuring him to be, man up and be a bigger man and be a bit more vicious. Luthor is evidently terrified by Superman. He wants to stop him. So when he does get access to the ship, he gets a brain dump from the ship. He asks to know everything, and it beams everything into his mind. He literally becomes a supervillain. He has all of the knowledge of the universe, but in the Green Goblin sort of structure, it drives him a little bit crazy. So throughout, he's hell-bent on destroying Superman. He's going to use Batman, and then he's going to kill him and discard him afterwards. This explains why he knows how kryptonite works, so he can give it to Bruce. He knows how to make Doomsday. He'll evidently know how to stop Doomsday. He has all of this knowledge, but he's also gone a little bit crazy. But within him, there's still this very true blue idea that he wants to save the world by stopping Superman. But now he's crazy and superpowered with a superpowered brain. He will eventually kill his own father, which is, that kind of fits into this the story of heritage in here with both Bruce and Clark. So that would also fit into there. There's a nice duality going on with the villains and the heroes. And he would kill his own father, and he would be massively conflicted about what's happened. Superman still dies, killing Doomsday. Lex basically wins, but he has lost as well because he's killed the patriarch of his family and regrets it. And then the next film is going to be about trying to stand up to Luthor. And that is where we got to. I think that was everything. I don't know if I missed anything.
Hell of a pitch there, Brad.
We should make this film. We could probably do it with an iPhone.
Yeah. We'll do a found footage body cam Batman. Yeah. So we don't even have to get a costume.
Exactly.
It's look. I mean, I still don't think that even fixes the other issues that I have with it. Like, for example, I do hate that kryptonite is the thing. I was hoping that they wouldn't go down the road of kryptonite. Because it's too obvious. How is Batman going to stop him? Well, kryptonite gloves or something, And then the other issue of the big monster at the end, Doomsday, is it? I felt it just it's too. It just felt a little out of place in that story, and it felt like, is your threat not strong enough that do we always have to have an alien now in a Superman, or a monster in a Superman movie? Can Superman not deal with human threats in an interesting way, or is it just always it's got to be laser eye blasts and all that kind of stuff?
I think there was a level of intelligence missing from that character as we're on Doomsday. Why couldn't they? But what? Excuse me. Why couldn't they have him a bit of Michael Shannon in there?
Yeah. That would have been more
Yeah,
interesting.
it was.
I would have loved to just have Michael Shannon's back rather than it be a monster with lightning and all that kind of stuff. It just felt, because also if Superman is going to be resurrected in the next movie, I mean, he doesn't turn into be a giant monster, does he?
Well, nearly.
No, but like he's not this big mutant
Yeah, yeah,
character,
yeah.
like something out of a cartoon. Whereas, so you already know you're going to be bringing him back as is, so to speak, just with more kind of a darker twist to his mind. So why not bring Doomsday or bring Michael Shannon
Yeah,
back exactly as is?
yeah. We'll add that into the mix as well. More
They
Shannon.
all they already paid him because his body is there, anyway, yeah. So I mean, other than that, I think I would think that's a much cleaner Batman film. Someday we're going to have to do Justice League.
Yeah, the Snyder cut.
Well, the Snyder cut doesn't get a free pass just because it's his name is on the cover. I mean, I think there's huge problems with that film as well.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll delve into that. I think the solutions we came up with, some of them were quite classic.
Oh, very good. I think
classic,
I agree.
Classic tropes. Classic tropes, like really almost standard, like action, adventure, superhero film mechanics and plot points, but they work. There's a reason they work, and there's a reason they're in all these films, because they help carry this story along without too much exposition and circumstance as we get in this script. So yeah, I would definitely watch this film. I don't dislike Batman versus Superman because it's a big spectacle. I watched it IMAX. I enjoyed watching it, but from a writing point of view.
I mean, I spent a fortune on comic books after I saw that movie. I just thought I just want my Batman fix, and I couldn't wait for the day when it came out on home release so I could watch it again. I had a lot of fun with it, but I also just remember thinking, you've taken a lot of shortcuts here to get to the end, and I just felt like I was being used. It did feel like a giant marketing campaign for Turkish Airlines and for a movie that was coming around the corner. That's what it felt like. And and I know it's not their fault, but it isn't helped by the fact that Civil War does it better, much better, in, a few months earlier. And it did set the bar. And I think Justice League suffers the same as well, because you're dealing with the Thanos-like character coming down to collect these things and put them together and create this cataclysmic effect. Again, it's not helped by the fact that I think, did Endgame come out when Justice League came out? Or was it the same year, or did it come out? Maybe it beat it to it, but I think Infinity War definitely came out before Justice League. I think so. Again, you've educated people on this story device, and it's Marvel doing it better again. And so.
But I think that's the thing about rewriting these enormous films like this. In retrospect, I mean, you can just apply mechanics to it that will fix it. But of course, when you're writing them in the first place, you've got so many external powers and influences changing what happens. And we know there was a Warner Brothers versus Zack Snyder thing for years going on, and we can see why these things happen. So it's not necessarily it was written in the wrong way. Like, there are so many reasons it ended up like this.
I would love to interview one of the execs involved in this film, pitch them those ideas, and then have them see what they come back with in terms of, like, all right, well, we can't do that because of this, and this, and we can't do this because this is this. Because, when we're having these conversations, sometimes I do feel, surely they could have thought of that as well, right? I mean, so I wonder how much external influences are actually there. Anyway,
yeah. And likewise, it'd be good to hear what you guys think. If you've got any thoughts, put them in the comments. If you like or dislike the changes we've made to this film. I think we covered it though, John. I think we've covered everything in there. Have you got any last thoughts before we sign off?
Normally when I come away from these films, sometimes I do want to go back and watch them again. I'm not big on wanting to watch this again. I do feel that Matt Reeves has giving me my Batman fix. I don't think I'll ever go back to this film. I don't know.
Yeah, but what are we going to call the universe? You can't call it the Reevesyverse, can you? It doesn't sound right. Like, what are we going to call that?
No universes, please. Just more Fincher style movies. Pitch. You do if this is your 7 movie. If Matt Reeves' Batman is your 7 movie, right? Because it's 7. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Then you, at some point, if you work your way through the Fincher catalog of ripping off Fincher's movies to put them in the DC universe, you're going to have to do The Social Network, which is your Lex Luthor origin story.
Nice, there you go.
and then we've made our way into the Snyderverse. Then,
yeah, that's it. We've just linked up the universes, but obviously the Reevesyverse. Sorry, I'm going to call it that. The Reevesyverse is going to be separate, so we don't have to worry about that. But thank you, John. That was fun. I love doing these shows. We always come up with some interesting stuff. So thank you for all of your input on it. That was great. And thanks everyone for listening. This has been the Great Hollywood Rewrite from the Script Department. Please check out our website at thescriptdepartment.net for more conversations like this. Take a look at our social media. The links are in the description. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for thescriptdepartment.net. And of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you've got any ideas for what film or TV show you'd like us to look at next week, just hit us up in the comments or message us directly. We look forward to hearing your suggestions. Nice one.